Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So I'm going to tell you about the game that I played against Ninja or Runinja. So let's get to it. So I played the uh what is it called? The Nimzo-Larsen. That's what it's called. So this is B3, and the goal of B3, of course, is get the bishop out, get the pawn out, and use the bishops as threats to the center. And this idea, if you look at it from the white side, it's called a Nimzo-Larsen. From the black side, it's called the Owens defense. I know, you've seen it so many times, but I like to feature the opening at times because it's tricky at the very start, and if your opponent doesn't know what to do, then a pawn may be lost really quickly. So bishop d6, knight to f3, so this is all theory, bishop to g4, and at this moment, I was thinking, okay, well, this is pretty standard. I'm going to play h3, bishop takes, right? Because if bishop h5, g4, bishop g6, and knight takes e5. Remember that this knight is pinned, so the only piece that can take that is the bishop. So that's why the bishop has to take on f3, queen takes, knight to e7, castles, and the dynamic is that I have two bishops, but our friend Runinja has these two knights in the strong center, so there are good things and bad things to my position. And then I play knight c3. And I remember feeling at this moment in the game that it was, I sort of liked my position, but I sort of didn't like it. So I didn't like it in the sense that if black played a6, and if I played bishop e2, it might be e4. And after queen h5, g6, it looks like my queen is running out of squares. I do have g5 and h6. I do have h4. I do have g4. But with moves like f5 coming, with moves like knight to e5 coming, it feels like the queen is in its own place. Can't get out. So I was preparing after a6, I was going to take on c6, and I obviously didn't see any way out of it. But instead e4 was played, and here this might have given me a little bit of a window. So I played queen to h5, and I'm not threatening taking d5 because there's always a bishop to h2 discovery, right? Because with the queen. So after knight b4, I thought this was a pretty good move, right? Threatening the weak pawn on the block. But this gave me a glimpse of hope. And I'm going to tell you why. And the move here, rook f to c1. First, you might think, what? Where is the hope, right? Why are you saying a hope? Well, I'm saying hope because I finally get to keep this bishop. I don't have to go to e2 and block out my queen. I can go all the way back to f1, right? And I think for me, this bishop was what I considered in the game as important. So I want to keep an important piece, right? So after c6, bishop to f1, knight to g6, really good, centralizing, maybe playing f5 later. Things are really rolling in the direction of Runinja. And then I start to fight back. a3, knight a6, and I'm going to tell you that at this moment I was very tempted to take on a6. And I evaluated the trade. I said if bishop takes a6, pawn takes a6, and I play something like knight to a4, right? I want to play c4. I want to try to open up the c file. So initially that was my thought. But over time, I said, if I play d3 and I try to get this bishop out and target it toward the king side, it doesn't look so bad either. So instead, I played f4. And you might be like, well, why was that move never brought up? And the reason is because I want to provoke our friend to en passant, right? Because I honestly think, if I play f4, first of all, I threaten maybe f5 in the future, right? And I also want to bring my knight over with the bishop using it as a connection, and now especially because the f4 controls the e5 square. So I think that's very important, right? The knight can't come to e5, the bishop can't come to e5, so things are working out. So initially I was thinking in my head, well, if en passant, I'm going to take with the queen, and after something like rook to e8, well, unless you wanna move the knight, then I was thinking, well, maybe I could play b4, and after knight to d7, coming to e5, I'm going to play knight to e2. And my goal is really to situate this guy to f4. There really isn't much to discuss, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to improve the placement of my pieces. I thought the knight on c3 wasn't doing much. It was blocking the bishop from doing its thing, so I got to give it some breathing room. So that's what I was thinking. So instead, knight takes f4 came, and I was half shocked at this move. But I thought it was reasonable. But after queen b6, I didn't know. I was immediately anticipating bishop takes f4. Right? But after bishop takes f4, what I was thinking in my mind was, what happens if bishop takes, pawn takes, and something like queen to g4, right? I wanted to set up this trick. Bishop takes d2, and now knight takes e4. You might be like, what? What? Knight takes bishop? Okay, what if I just take here? Well, checkmate. So that just goes to show how tricky chess is sometimes. So in the game, queen b6 happened, king h1, and for a moment I was scared. Queen f2 looked scary, right? But after bishop takes f4, I was okay. Played queen g4. I said, chill, dude, chill. Bishop takes d2, well, I'm going to pull the same thing. Knight takes d5. I'm attacking the queen. You take. Oh, checkmate. Watch out. Always think about that. So, bishop h6. And here I decided, let's take. Because I want to make room for my rook on f1. And this partially is because I want to prevent this move f5 from happening. So, I was thinking a more accurate way, instead of taking on a6 right away, is sometimes you need to consider in-between moves. And I thought something really clever here was the move f5. In-between move, right? I came here, rook to f1, to prevent f5. But if you can do it a move earlier, you can threaten the queen. That is going to work out in black's favor. So bishop takes a6, pawn takes, rook f1, f6. Okay, so now this diagonal is gone. The d2 pawn is threatened. I'm going to play knight a4, queen d8. I'm going to play d3. I'm going to provoke our friend to play e3, and I'll play bishop to d4. And my goal in this position is to take on e3, take, and the move queen to e6, picking up that pawn. So then f5 came. I thought this was very clever. But at the moment, I thought I was still winning, right? Queen to f8, and I was like, well, If I play queen e6, queen f7, I don't get to take e3. So I was like, although I get to take this, I think my main goal is I want to take this guy, right? And to be honest, at this moment, I didn't realize how good of a pawn this was, but apparently it was a very good pawn, right? Because queen takes e6, rook to e8, knight c3, e2. I was scared, right? Because after rook e1, there's queen f1. But here I have the move bishop g1, and that is what I missed, right? Because I'm threatening the rook, right? Because if you take my rook, I'm going to take that rook, and it's checkmate. So I didn't see that. So instead, I wanted to prevent all the scary drama, so I traded. Then I played rook e1, rook e8, rook e2. I didn't want the pawn advancing further, and now rook f8. And I think our Runinja sets up a very tricky trap here. Bishop takes e3 is a blunder on my part. I think I was just too excited to snatch off the pawn, and rook e8 came on the board. And here I said, ooh, oh no. I was shaking my head, and I was thinking, okay, I have two options here. I have bishop takes bishop, and accept that I have two pieces for the rook, or I can play knight c5, and if black plays d4, I'm just going to play knight takes a6. You play pawn takes, I'm just going to play g3. Bring my king to g2, and nothing will really ever happen, except that this pawn will never really go anywhere, right? Because I might bring the knight here to come snatch off the pawn eventually. If my knight gets to f4, maybe I can block off the connection that this bishop has. So I probably should have done that. But instead I told myself, let's go for a riskier approach. Let's go for bishop takes h6, right? So I played knight c5, and then d4 happened, and here I easily could have went knight takes pawn. But I said, let's go for an adventure. Bishop takes bishop, rook takes, and bishop f4. So still materially even, take, and here was my inaccurate move. And at this moment, I remember seeing rook c3, and I was like, oh, shoot, right? Because my pawns, well, they're all gone. So what can I do? Which pawn do I protect, right? So in this position, I was thinking, okay, knight b4, but a5. So that does nothing. I was also thinking, okay, what happens if, what was it? a4, rook takes d3, and then I said knight c5. And I was like, rook c3. And I was like, b4, and then, I forgot what I was thinking. d3, I don't know. I didn't like it. I thought my king was too far away, right? So sometimes the king does play a role. And what else did I consider here? Well, I considered bishop to e5. And I said, do I like that? Well, rook takes, bishop takes, rook takes, threatening the knight. I have to back up, and now a5. And I was like, ooh, yeah. Bishop to b2, oh, rook a2, and the pawn is coming. Did I like this? No. But did I know what to do? No, I didn't know that either. So in the game, I played bishop to e5, rook takes d3 happened, and here I was like, I was evaluating. Rook d1, d3, d2, that's really fast. So what do I do, right? And here's where I will leave you off with. It's just that complicated. So I'll see you soon.